On this Monday night, meet Canada's new ambassador to the United States.
We don't need another trade mission.
Who is Mark Wiseman? What are his credentials and why he's already under fire? CBS on the defensive, why the network says it shelved a 60-minute story and the outrage. The potentially heavy burden of the holidays.
It's okay if you're not feeling great.
How to stay mindful of your mental health. Plus, it's so much more than a love story.
I love you so much.
The new Canadian drama heating up the conversation about identity and inclusion.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Anthony Robart.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney has named business executive and personal friend Mark Wiseman as Canada's new ambassador to the United States. Now, this is a key post, of course, as Ottawa navigates a critical phase in trade talks with Washington and aims for a reset in cross-border relations. Mackenzie Gray reports on Wiseman's background and how he could shape Canada's relationship with the Trump administration.
I think he's a great prime minister. I mean, he could represent me anytime.
That friendly relationship with Donald Trump has been buoyed by the prime minister's business background.
He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty. Maybe as nasty as anybody.
And now Mark Carney's hoping his new ambassador to the U.S. will have a similar style and rapport, appointing his close friend Mark Wiseman starting February 15th. Wiseman's business experience, nearly as extensive as Carney's, running the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board and working at investment firm BlackRock, rumored as a potential replacement to the CEO until he left the company for not disclosing a consensual affair with an employee. He also co-founded a lobby group called the Century Initiative.
Our goal is to see a Canada with 100 million people by 2100.
That's drawn the attention of the Conservatives, who've been attacking Wiseman after Global News first reported the appointment 2 weeks ago.
Mark Wiseman, the Prime Minister's corporate crony, longtime Liberal elite, and head of the Century Initiative, whose stated mission is to triple the population of Canada to 100 million people.
The Bloc Québécois are also unhappy with Wiseman's criticism of supply management, including in a Globe and Mail op-ed. The sacred cow of supply management, through its import restrictions, production quotas, and price controls, secures the market for a protected group of settled players, impeding innovation and keeping prices artificially high for Canadian consumers. While Wiseman has no electoral or diplomatic experience, he does have sharp views on how Ottawa should operate.
We don't need another trade mission. Like, people know who Canada is. Like, we don't need to go and wave a flag and, hand out, little maple leaf pins at some event somewhere, or, give people, miniature bottles of maple syrup and have another speech by some politician. We've got to get done.
The number one thing that does need getting done, a renegotiated Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade deal, Anthony, the core mission that Wiseman will be tasked with handling, with the hopes that his close personal ties with Carney and a similar business background will be viewed favorably inside the Trump administration.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Mackenzie, thank you so much. Meantime, the long-running labor dispute at Canada Post could soon be over. The Crown Corporation and the union have reached tentative deals on new contracts. So after negotiating for more than 2 years, both sides have been hammering out the final details of this agreement for the past month, which include higher wages and better benefits. Canada Post's 53,000 workers will vote on the deals in January. If ratified, the contracts would last until 2029. In Australia, a substantial amount of information has been revealed from the investigation into the deadly mass shooting at Bondi Beach. Newly released court documents and images show how the suspected gunmen, a father and son, allegedly took months to prepare for the attack. Police also say a number of explosives that failed to detonate were also involved. Stuart Greer reports.
The suspects in the Bondi Beach massacre, Sajid and Naveed Akram, allegedly training with firearms in a secluded countryside location weeks ahead of the deadly attack. Australian police say newly released photos show how the accused father and son duo planned meticulously, scouting locations to target Hanukkah celebrations in Sydney. 15 people were killed in the December 14th attack, Australia's deadliest mass shooting in almost 3 decades. Before starting to fire, police allege the suspects threw homemade pipe and tennis ball bombs that failed to detonate, and they packed other improvised explosive devices into their car. A surveillance camera image on the day of the attack allegedly shows the pair leaving their Airbnb, carrying bulky items wrapped in a blanket. As tributes to the victims were cleared to be preserved at Sydney's Jewish Museum, the state parliament was recalled for emergency debate on new proposed laws that would put major limits on gun ownership and restrictions on protests.
You've seen what the consequences of globalising the Intifada are. It's the death of 15 innocent people on the beaches of Bondi Beach simply for practising their religion in a peaceful way.
Opponents call the measures rushed and draconian, while the gun lobby says farmers would be unfairly impacted by gun ownership limits. With police saying an Islamic State flag was found in the suspect's car, new measures to ban terror symbols and fight the radicalization of children were also announced.
We will not allow extremists to groom and brainwash our children into hate or terrorism.
Sajid Akram was killed by police, but his son, Navid, was wounded and was well enough on Monday to be moved from hospital to prison. He faces 59 charges, including murder and terrorism. Stuart Greer, Global News, Prague.
In Moscow, a Russian general appears to have been assassinated in an apparent car bombing. Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov was killed after his vehicle exploded as he was pulling out of a parking space. He was head of the Russian Army's Operational Training Department. Investigators suspect Ukrainian intelligence services may have been involved in the bombing. Now, Ukraine has not commented. This now marks the third Russian military official killed by such bombings over the past year. And U.S. President Donald Trump is stirring up old tensions by appointing a special envoy to Greenland. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry has been named to this role. He posted, "It's an honor to serve you in this volunteer position to make Greenland part of the U.S." Now, this move, as you can imagine, has drawn anger from Greenland and across the European Union over Washington's interest in the semi-autonomous territory of Denmark. The Danish foreign minister calls the move totally unacceptable. And there's more controversy surrounding CBS News over a move that is being criticized as appeasement to the Trump administration. Last night, the American network pulled a segment of its program, 60 Minutes, covering the plight of migrants deported from the U.S. to a notorious prison in El Salvador. As Candice Cole reports, the decision was made just hours before it was supposed to air, prompting huge uproar even from its own journalists.
60 Minutes correspondent Sharon Alfonsi is firing back after newly installed CBS editor-in-chief Barry Weiss decided to pull her story about Venezuelan migrants who were deported to El Salvador's Secot prison in March for alleged gang affiliation, according to President Trump.
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
This 60 Minutes promo of Alfonsi's story, featuring firsthand accounts of how those migrants were treated, ran for days before Weiss abruptly yanked it just hours before it was set to air Sunday. Weiss reportedly saying the segment was not ready and needed more reporting. According to numerous reports, Alfonsi addressed the story's cancellation in a private email to colleagues. In it, she says Weiss's decision to pull the story was a, quote, political one, adding the piece had been screened 5 times by CBS and multiple requests for comment from the Trump administration were met with silence. She goes on to say, quote, if the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we have effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient. Weiss, who also runs the right-leaning outlet The Free Press, reportedly spoke of the need for trust during an editorial meeting Monday morning and said that despite the powerful testimony of torture at Secot, Alfonsi's story, quote, did not advance the ball.
If you're going to keep holding out for comment from the administration, essentially you're giving them a veto over the story. They were given an opportunity to have their say.
The move comes just months after CBS parent company Paramount paid President Trump $16 million to settle a lawsuit over a 60 Minutes interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris, claiming it gave her an unfair advantage heading into last year's presidential election. Weiss has said Alfonsi's story would air at a later date. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
The U.S. Coast Guard is pursuing another oil tanker near Venezuela as tensions in the region escalate. Venezuela says the vessel operated by American energy giant Chevron was sailing to the United States under license and in compliance with international agreements. U.S. authorities say the ship is flying a false flag and under a judicial seizure order. The Trump administration has accused Venezuela of using oil money to fund drug-related crime. The U.S. has already seized 2 oil tankers this month. Now, oil prices were up sharply today as investors keep a close eye on that situation. Some context, Venezuela holds about 1% of the world's oil supply. But because the country produces the same heavy oil as Alberta, a loss in supply could actually be Canada's gain. But a global oversupply is still putting pressure on crude oil prices. Heather Yorks-West looks at what that could mean for Alberta and Canada and the prospects for a new pipeline.
Pipeline politics may have been a standout moment of 2025, but the Memorandum of Understanding between Alberta and Ottawa came at a time when global oil prices were pretty low.
There's a big surplus of oil available. So right now people say between 2 and 4 million barrels a day is the expected surplus level of production going into Q1 of next year.
The price of West Texas Intermediate, the benchmark Alberta uses to build its budget, was trading around $69 a barrel this time last year. This December, prices have been as low as $55. It's meant the province's budget deficit has grown from a projected $5.2 billion in February to more than $6.4 billion.
The business side is actually still quite good. Companies are still quite profitable. Their stocks are still quite high.
Because of plans to expand capacity on existing pipelines owned by Trans Mountain and Enbridge, there are plans for production in the Canadian oil sands to expand. But backing a new pipeline project when oil prices are this low is a tough sell. In a year-end interview with Donna Friesen, Prime Minister Carney says an investor needs to step up.
That's the other thing that's in the MOU. This is not government building a pipeline. It's if there is a private sector proponent who will build.
Oil prices are expected to remain low through the first half of 2026. Beyond that, there are some who feel the market is well positioned for a turnaround.
We just don't know what the geopolitical situation is going to be over the course of the year. But in general, people view price pressure, downward pressure, but something could easily spike it up again.
Canadian oil in particular could benefit from a blockade of Venezuela's 900,000 barrels a day because both countries produce the same type of heavy crude. Right now, Canadian oil enters the market at a discount, a price that could rise as refineries search to replace any Venezuelan stock that may be lost. Heather Yorks-West, Global News, Calgary.
And you can watch Donna Friesen's full interview with the Prime Minister this Thursday on Christmas Day right here on Global. The fate of one of Canada's first convicted terrorists. Coming up, the decision on whether he should be granted parole. One of Canada's first convicted terrorists has been denied parole after 2 decades in prison. The Parole Board of Canada says the Moroccan national and Quebec resident continues to legitimize violence. This is highlighting the challenge of de-radicalizing extremists, particularly those who are incarcerated. Taria Isri has a story.
After nearly 20 years behind bars, the Parole Board of Canada still considers Saeed Namou an unrepentant terrorist.
Not everyone will de-radicalize in life. Some will remain very deeply entrenched in their violent ideologies.
The Moroccan national was taken into custody in 2007 and later sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 10 years. From his apartment in small-town Quebec, he produced al-Qaeda propaganda for the Global Islamic Media Front and plotted to bomb targets in Germany and Austria.
When he was arrested by a police officer, he was in the process of obtaining his visa to leave the country.
Earlier this month, the board denied his request for parole, finding he presents an unacceptable risk to the public, showing no signs of de-radicalization and little, if any, remorse or empathy. Back in 2010, Namou was one of the first convicted under terrorism laws enacted post 9/11. Since then, that list has grown.
It's very rare that, especially after doing so much time in prison that someone will come out and do something again in the realm of terrorism, but it does happen.
A member of the Toronto 18 terror group reportedly left Canada shortly after his release from prison and died fighting with extremists in Syria.
We don't have a solid statistical summary of what's going on to come to the conclusion that programs, de-radicalization programs really work.
When Namu is released, he would likely be arrested by border agents for deportation. He could try to delay his removal by claiming he would be at risk if he returns to Morocco. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Increased stress and sadness over the holidays. Ahead, why experts say this time of year can be particularly challenging for many. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is warning people to check their freezers tonight for a potentially bad batch of Pillsbury Pizza Pops. That's right, there are concerns the popular snacks could be contaminated with E. coli. Experts say food contaminated with E. coli might not look or even smell spoiled, but it can still make you very ill. The recall affects 4 of its pepperoni and bacon products. We have the UPCs and product codes listed on our website, globalnews.ca/globalnational. Well, the holiday season is supposed to be a joyful time of year, of course, but holiday stress is also often present, and it can be a difficult burden to manage. Katherine Ward speaks with experts about the emotional challenges during this time and some strategies on how to cope.
While some people feel inspired, putting up decorations, giving gifts, and attending big family gatherings, that is not the case for everyone.
Even if you've never struggled with a mental illness, you can just feel a tremendous amount of mental health pressure and stress and anxiety around to get things right.
Experts say this time of year can be triggering for those struggling with their mental health. 52% of Canadians report feelings of anxiety, depression, and isolation during the holiday season, according to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Call takers at the Kids Help Phone have seen more people reaching out this year than ever.
We've actually seen a 31% increase in our texting service, our volume, just this year alone. So we know that the needs that young people have across the country are really high. If people aren't feeling in a really great place, the messages they might get from people around them are along the lines of, come on, you should be happy. This is a happy time of year. Those can be problematic for somebody, though, who is really struggling then.
Experts say there are different strategies that can help. Sometimes it's figuring out how to manage financial pressure.
Maybe buying gifts and spending money during the holidays isn't meaningful. And, we can start to create different traditions and different ways to show our love and gratitude to the people that we care about. And so gift giving can be, reframed, and we can spend quality time with each other.
Other times, it's simply acknowledging how you're truly feeling.
I think giving yourself grace, that it's okay if you're not feeling great, and finding opportunities to really focus in on taking care of themselves.
And if you need to talk, people anywhere in Canada can call or text 988 and be connected with a trained responder. That number is free and operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even during the holidays. Katherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
Things are heating up on the ice. Next, the steamy hockey drama getting a lot of attention and fans.
I'm driving home for Christmas.
British singer-songwriter Chris Rea, best known for the song Driving Home for Christmas, has died. His family announced today that Rea died peacefully in hospital following a short illness. Rea found fame in the UK in the 1980s with his distinct voice and by blending blues with soft rock music. He was 74 years old. And finally tonight, a hit TV series based on a book by a Canadian author is striking a chord across streaming platforms and social media. Now, it tells the story of 2 elite hockey players who share a secret romance. And it's not just fans who are taking notice. The show is sparking conversations about identity, inclusion, and belonging in sports. Neetu Gadsha reports on why it's resonating with so many.
In Metro Vancouver, queer hockey players have a place to play and be themselves.
The president of the Cutting Edges and LGBTQ2+ Hockey Association says the new TV series Heated Rivalry has hit close to home.
I think it's a representation that a lot of us kind of hoped for when we were younger and playing sports and playing hockey.
Based on a book by Canadian author Rachel Reed, the show follows male hockey stars competing while navigating a secret romance off the ice.
Apparently inviting someone from the crowd down to the rink.
The show has been renewed for a second season after its breakout success. According to Crave, Heated Rivalry is the platform's most watched original series on record, and HBO Max reports it among the streamer's top scripted debuts of the year. Heated Rivalry has also been dominating social media feeds.
I think I'm gay.
Advocates say the series comes at an important time of heightened debate over queer inclusion, with policies and controversy affecting trans women in sports in both Canada and the U.S.
But we've also just seen a lot of really hostile discourse to the queer community. And I think people want to see stories that counter that, to show the humanity of our queer community.
I think that representation really helps expand, who people might imagine being in hockey at all, right? And so I think that that's pretty new, and it's really exciting to see.
Kyle McCarthy says the Professional Women's Hockey League, with many openly queer athletes, and Heated Rivalry have both helped draw people back onto the ice.
We've seen a lot of uptick in interest in players that stepped away from the game for 10, 20 years because they are identified with the queer community, who are wanting to get back into it. And it's an exciting thing to see.
He says the series has captured hearts, inspired players, and sparked conversations about inclusion, even as the NHL remains without any openly out players. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Vancouver.
And that is Global National for this Monday night. I'm Anthony Robart. Tonight's Your Canada is Roberts Arm, Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.